It's always an honor to introduce my boss, Mike Pazzani. Mike is uniquely qualified for his position as Vice President of Research and Economic Development. Mike's a scholar. He's one of the most cited computer scientists in the world. He started a business and sold it. He's on the board of many large companies. And he ran a $200 million a year budget at National Science Foundation. So he knows how to manage science, how to do science. And since he's been at Rutgers, all the metrics that you can measure have gone through the roof. So join me in welcoming Mike.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, there's a number of people I have to thank. First of all, Marcus Cruz put many hours into this. And Marcus, you're running around somewhere, I don't see you. Oh, there you are, right in front. Thank you very much for all the work. I think everyone here probably got an email from Marcus over the weekend with instructions. This was the vision of Rick Ramone to put this event on, and I'm very appreciative for that. And then behind the scenes, Heidi Sinansky is my business manager, and I pay her to worry so I don't have to. So I'm going to talk to you today about innovation at Rutgers. And for those of you who read the newspapers, you might think that Rutgers is a sports franchise in central New Jersey. And yes, indeed, we are proud of our sports, but there's a lot more happening at Rutgers. And these things are $400 million of research funding, really to create new innovations. A very innovative group of faculty and students starting 10 companies a year. And I'm going to talk to you about some of these innovations. And the first one I'm going to start with is actually something that's been in progress for 3 or 4 years, but we haven't been able to talk about it until today. And I want to tell you about a company that we formed 3 years ago. It's now called Solidia Technologies, and Solidia hopes to transform the world of building and construction. Basically, it's green materials for roads, concrete, for buildings. I still remember 4 years ago when Rick Ryman showed me a piece of what's now called Rymanite, which is a new ceramic material made in a different way. There's a number of very interesting properties about Rymanite that I'll describe in a minute. But I remember his excitement. He'd lined up some investors, Kleiner Perkins, one of the top VC firms, and we quickly formed a company. Kleiner licensed the technology from Rutgers, and they've been off and running. There's now have a factory in Piscataway with over 30 jobs, I believe. And I actually remember negotiating the license as my daughter was getting married. I was in California just saying I wasn't going to deal with anything from Rutgers, but this seemed important enough for me to continue working on. So what's cool about Rymanite? This is a ceramic material made at low temperatures. Most ceramics are baked at over 1,000 degrees. This is something, a chemical reaction that can be made in one's kitchen or in a factory in Piscataway. You can make roof tiles out of it, ceramics for countertops, marble facades for buildings, but also a very similar process creates a concrete-like material that can be used for roads. So it requires a lot less energy to make this material than your average ceramics, but the process of making it also pulls CO2 out of the air. So while many people are talking about carbon sequestration, taking carbon, pumping it into deep underground mines and finding a way to seal it, we're doing something useful with the carbon, making hard materials out of it. So we think Solidia is going to be a great new product. I think it's actually starting to be available for sale in 2012. But again, it sequesters CO2, it's low energy, and we think it's going to be something that we're all going to be proud of, something that happened at Rutgers by one of our inventive faculty working with one of his inventive students. Of course, Rutgers has a long history in innovation and commercialization, starting with streptomycin in 1943. Streptomycin was discovered at Rutgers by Selman Waxman. We heard about Palmolive from the Waxman Institute. It's named after Selman Waxman. He won the Nobel Prize, but more importantly, he invented an antibiotic that basically saved hundreds of thousands of lives a year from this horrible disease. But this also is a great example of something that a university can't do on its own. Rutgers or no other university can really take an idea and bring it to 1 million consumers. You need to partner with others. And the story of streptomycin is a story of partnership with Merck. where, well, universities make milligrams, but if you need a 15,000-gallon fermenter, you need to work with a company like Merck to get this technology to the market. So for those of you who don't know about Rutgers, let me give you the very brief overview. We're a very large, very complex university, 2,700 faculty, 38,000 undergrads, and 13,000 graduate and professional students. We're an old university with over 400,000 alumni, 200,000 of which live in New Jersey. We're one of the 62 AAU research universities, and last year that research brought $433 million to New Jersey to do a number of inventions. I'm going to tell you just about a few of them right now. So one of them is our wireless lab, WinLab, has an orbit test bed. This room that WinLab has over 256 wireless nodes in it, and they can actually simulate a wireless deployment in a city within this single room, and they use it to test various protocols. How can you send or receive video when there's lots of people sitting next to you at the football game? Those sorts of questions you can answer in this simulation lab. Another resource at Rutgers is the Rutgers Cell and DNA Repository run by Jay Tishfield. And this is the largest university repository of cells and DNA. Basically, they collect the blood from individuals with a variety of diseases, autism, Tourette's, and they want to find the genetic causes of these diseases. So the Cell and DNA Repository stores the cell lines, does the genetic sequencing, and does the analysis to identify genes. Another project at Rutgers is the Protein Data Bank. This is a database of 60,000 bioactive molecules run by Helen Berman, and it's used daily by the pharmaceutical industry as well as academic research labs. But the neat thing is that Helen also teaches undergraduate courses. You can, as a student at Rutgers, you can sit in on one of her seminars about protein. And Helen also does outreach to middle schools, trying to encourage students to pursue careers in science by folding balloons instead of folding proteins. But later on, some of these students we hope will enroll at Rutgers. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about science and engineering, but Rutgers is famous for a number of things. Our music school has a world-famous trombonist, Conrad Herwig. He's made 17 albums. I've actually seen him perform at the Bruno Jazz Club in New York City. This is the same jazz club that Les Paul used to perform at. But we're here to talk about innovation, and innovation will start with our students. And I want to tell you about a couple student entrepreneurs that we have at Rutgers. On your iPhone right now, you can buy an app called Are You Lost? And I know a number of people can be lost around Rutgers. It tells students when the next bus is, what's the menu at the dining halls are, gives you contacts for various things, or you can read the Rutgers newspaper through Are You Lost? I think it's about $1 I downloaded it. It's an interesting way to find your way around Rutgers. Another group of students have been working on a project for Android phones called Are You Studying? Isn't Are You a great thing to have in your app name? In this case, the Rutgers University students have built a flashcard application where you can create flashcards to help you study. You can upload the flashcards to the web and share them with others, and this is now available on the Android market. We even have entrepreneurs who come to Rutgers, entrepreneurs before they came to Rutgers. One of our students sitting over here built something called the dollar iron. Do you ever have a frustration of not being able to put your dollar in a vending machine? Well, if you hook a dollar iron to the side of every vending machine, you can flatten the dollar out and then run the dollar through and get your candy and Coke. Now, I'm talking to a number of different groups that was reaching out to students. The simple message I want to give to faculty is to get involved. A few years ago, we changed the name of the office. It used to be the Tech Transfer Office. And tech transfer implies a serial process where you hand things from one person to another. You write a paper, you get a patent, they license it, you wait, you get a check, but that never really happens. The process is much more interactive. It's technology commercialization. So I encourage you to disclose your inventions to the Office of Technology Commercialization, but it doesn't stop there. You're going to have to help write the patent specification. You're going to have to help create the marketing material to explain why your invention is better than other inventions. You're going to meet with potential licensees or investors. And then even once the company's formed, they'll want you to consult with that company or conduct additional research to show how that product can solve other applications. I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that have been invented at Rutgers that are making a difference. And let me start with Joachim Cohn's work in our Center for Biomaterials. This center has attracted $6 million in National Institute of Health funding, which has then been followed up by $42 million in DoD funding. But also 4 startup companies have spun out of this particular center in biomaterials. Over $300 million in private equity has been invested into these startups, and over 100,000 jobs in New Jersey have been created. On the bottom is an antimicrobial shield. When one has a pacemaker inserted, this shield goes around it and prevents infection, and then the shield slowly dissolves. At the top is a bioabsorbable stent. This stent is now in clinical trials in several countries. And again, when you have a bypass operation, you have a stent inserted. The current stents stay there forever, but you only need it for about 6 months until the muscles and the veins recover. And this is a bioabsorbable stent that will dissolve after it's no longer needed. It also has medicine in the stent that also gets released slowly as it dissolves. Another invention at Rutgers that made it to market this year is a new HIV drug based on some of the work that Eddie Arnold did. Eddie Arnold is an X-ray crystallographer, and he believes in structure-based drug design. What that basically means, if you understand the structure of a virus, in this case the HIV virus, you know how it works, and if you know how it works, you can break it or stop it from working. And that's what the HIV drugs do. So by understanding the structure, Eddie collaborated with Paul Janssen of Janssen Pharmaceuticals to find a drug that would prevent HIV from replicating. And that drug just won approval by the FDA after many years, and it's now helping people with HIV. And Johnson & Johnson has actually been nice enough to produce this drug for cost in Africa. So in the US, your insurance pays the high price for it, but where it's needed most, Johnson & Johnson is allowing that to happen at their cost. Rutgers has another long history in Newark in our neuroscience group. Paul Talala from there formed the company Scientific Learning Corporation a few years back, and this company helps children learn language. In particular, children with hearing problems often have speech problems as well. And when a child has a hearing problem, they can use software that she developed to help correct that hearing problem, and then they can learn to speak better as well. Finally, I want to talk about a company that Apostolos Karaskalis formed called Tioma. It was a search engine that came out of Rutgers. Tioma was then bought by Ask Jeeves and became Ask.com. And I think it's the only search engine that filmed a commercial in on Rutgers property, in this case in Geology Hall behind that mastodon. It's not just technology. Rutgers also has advances in a number of areas, including agriculture. Rutgers' Rick Vorsa has produced a new variety of cranberry called Crimson Queen. This cranberry is plumper than other cranberries. It's great for making craisins. It's more disease resistant. It has higher yield. So when you sit down for your Thanksgiving dinner and you have cranberry sauce, it's likely it's coming from a Rutgers cranberry. So let me tell you about the Disruptive Innovation Fund. Eric talked a little bit about it. But the goal really is to invent something that no one has thought of before that's going to change the world by creating a new market. Now, I didn't want to prejudice this by giving a Rutgers invention, so let me give an example of an invention that wasn't done at Rutgers. Some of you know I'm an amateur photographer, and one of the problems I have is things are never in focus. This particular camera is one that after you take the picture, you can refocus it. It uses a different type of lens. It's called a light field camera. And on the right, you can see an image of either focusing on the woman's face or focusing on what she's handling. But currently, you have to make that choice before you take the picture. And with this type of camera, you can refocus it after you've taken the picture, which I think is pretty neat. So we're looking for inventions like that, something that's really going to change the world, that's really going to leapfrog above existing technologies. And Eric is willing to put $500,000 into a faculty invention or $100,000 into a student invention to give you the resources to really make an effort to make this happen. Now, I also want to reach out and talk to some of the small companies. I know a number of small companies have come here, and as a land-grant university, one of Rutgers' missions is to help the state of New Jersey And we have a small business development center run by Brendan Hopper that helps small companies. Last year it helped over 230 business clients, counseled a number of entrepreneurs, and if you're a small business owner and you need help with accounting, marketing, the Small Business Development Center can help you with. We also have facilities to help small companies. The Food Innovation Center in Bridgeton, New Jersey actually has test kitchens, which can be used to create new products. This facility helped Char, a European baker, move its gluten-free product to the US. It helped a small entrepreneur create a Jersey ketchup from Jersey tomatoes. And it also helped a farmer build a peach cider. The farmer had a problem. Only half the peaches are nice enough to put on the market shelves in your grocery store, and the other half are plowed under. Well, instead, he's making cider out of them, and now he's making more money from peach cider than he is from selling fresh peaches. So for others, let me say, other companies, we're planning an innovation park, a technology park at Rutgers. And think about moving here. Within 2 years, we hope to have the first building up, and it's a place where you can move a company in and then work closely with our inventive faculty. And then I know there are investors out there in the audience as well. As I close, let me mention that there's a number of different opportunities. We're forming about 10 companies a year. Here's an assortment of them. But let me tell you about a few of the things happening at Rutgers. One of them is a hydrogel for wound healing. If you have a variety of wounds, this can be sprayed on. It can also deliver drugs straight to the wound, so it prevents infection, and again, it does drug delivery to the wound. Another example of a company that Rick Ramon has formed is called PowerMap. It's a power meter that you can plug into any electrical output in your house, and it tells you what's happening everywhere in the house, or all the other electrical outlets. Is the washing machine consuming too much electricity? Things along those lines. And I think it's a very innovative device that really gives you more knowledge about what's happening in your house, which then allows you to use energy more wisely. As another example, Greg Gordia has formed a company called Bright Cloud International, and it looks like you're playing a computer game, but this is much more purposeful. It's rehabilitating stroke patients. As you play the game, it measures how your arm mobility, and it provides that feedback to your doctor. And patients who use this recover quickly, more quickly, and the doctor gets more information about their recovery. And then the last thing I want to talk about is a company that Martin Colton has formed, and this is a company that helps databases be written more quickly. There's a major problem right now. If you try to replicate disks, and disks are getting larger and larger, it takes a great deal of time to copy that database. This is a technology that lets database writes happen 10 times more quickly, and as data needs to be replicated, this is extremely important. So let me end now with a quote. We are a university, and we should have a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail." And I can think of no area where this has happened more than in computer technology. I was one of the first telecommuters. On the left is a picture of my daughter with a terminal that had an acoustic modem that worked at 300 bits per second. And when she was born, I got to work at home occasionally and telecommute to work. Less than a decade later, the world changed drastically. There were graphical user interfaces, there were mice, and this was due to the inventions of a number of people, including our next speaker. So I'd like to welcome you all at Rutgers, encourage you all to get involved in innovation. And I think we're about to have President McCormick introduce our next speaker.